Hello, my friends. This is Sebastien back again. Thrifter, reseller, collector as well. And I'm going to be sharing some of my recent book finds from about the past week or so. And I'll start off mostly with the hardcovers and larger books. And you can kind of see it's a little stacked here in the foreground. And then some of the paperbacks. And a lot of the paperbacks are mostly like vintage. A lot of the books I pick up are vintage. But I do pick up a few contemporary here and there. But I'll start off, and most of them, items I thrift are generally through Goodwill. But this first one I did find at White Dove, which is another thrift store chain here in the Valley. And this one was $10. But the cool thing on this one is it's from 1933, and you can kind of tell just the design style. But the really cool thing about it is it's illustrated by none other than George Herriman, who is a great comic book artist who did Crazy Cat and Ignatz, which was basically one of the greatest early 20th century comics. I mean, he worked into the 40s. And basically, he wasn't always popular with the readers. Or there was a portion of the readers for the newspaper that didn't like his work because it was very kind of quirky. And he was both incredibly fantastic visual artist. I like the inscription on here too, dated 1933. And it just has that beautiful script and everything. But yeah, he was such a great artist, and but he was also a great writer. So it's a kind of zany poetry, basically, you know. And definitely one of the great artists. It'd be really cool to collect some of his like original artworks and original comic sheets, you know. But those are pretty expensive, as you can imagine. But anyways, that was a really cool book. So it cost 10, and that's actually not a particularly valuable book. Probably can look at selling it between 30 or 40, but it's such a cool piece. I'm even just tempted to keep it for my own collection. This next one is a cool find. Isabel Allende. I've read several of her books. I remember liking it. She was from, now I'm blanking, South America, I think Chile. And she's Allende. She's connected to the family, the political family. So I forget what connection she had, but they were assassinated, and they were democratically elected. So it was kind of a whole thing. I don't know the history all that well, but the really cool thing with this one is has a personal letter from her, and it's to this guy named Tom. And the thing is, I think they were connected through the Gorbachev Foundation. But it's really cool to have find a personal letter of hers with the piece, and her handwriting is just, I mean, beautiful. And the book itself is also signed. So it's just really neat to have like kind of a story on the book, you know, through the signature plus the letter. It's such a fun find. Definitely a personal favorite find for me. Next is Jean Genet, hardcover, vintage hardcover. This one's probably worth about, $20 to $30, I would say. He was a famous French writer, kind of transgressive in his era. I think there was a lot of sex and homosexual kind of relationships and stuff in the work. So that's a cool book. I find some of his paperbacks time to time. This is Charles Dickens' vintage book by this press. Let's see, Peter Popper Press. They did a lot of like smaller size books, but always nicely designed. They have a lot of cool illustrations in them. This one probably worth $20-$30. And this one is just kind of one of those. I can't resist this. This is a Polish edition, I believe, of Victor Hugo, and his book. I think it's 1793 or 94. I read it, and it's a very good book. It takes place, in French Revolutionary times, and it's kind of like how reactionaries and revolutionaries are often kind of the flip side of the same coin, but he does it so well in terms of showcasing the characters and people, and especially of that era. It's interesting to see. This one is an antique book, Shakespeare book, I believe, from 1885. It's pretty neat. You know, another one that's probably just worth $20 to $30. And you know, this Polish edition, that's very niche and tricky to sell, but it had a cool cover design. So I don't mind having it around even for a long time because it's something I'd want to collect. Doesn't mean that there's many other people that would want to collect it. So that's always kind of a thing I have to be careful on. Is just because I think it's cool doesn't mean that other people are interested in it. This is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, The General in His Labyrinth, first U.S. edition. I have to research a bit more what the value on that is. I don't think it's anything crazy, but it is a cool find. Early 90s, maybe 1990. The Glass House, this is like a architecture book by the publisher is Asulin, and they do a lot of good art and kind of specialty, like, you know, on design books. Not all of them are worth money, but some of them are. So it's a good one to pay attention to. Kind of like Taschen and Phaidon, Phaidon. They have some cool publications and issues, and some are more rarer than others. So, and you can get a feel because, you know, if you find a Taschen kind of Monet book, it's like there's a zillion out there. But if it's a more niche artist, those can be worth good money. This is Richard Brautigan, who I honestly never knew much about this writer. I haven't read him yet. I think he's fairly well known for his fiction, but this is a nonfiction book of his, and it's in very good condition. And so it was probably, you know, from a bookseller, because I found a bunch of these books, and it was marked at 100. So I don't think it's worth 100, but it's decently valuable. And these all these I found at Goodwill, except for the George Herriman book. Love in the Time of Cholera, hardcover edition. That's decent. I mean, decent, not crazy. You know, like $20. These, I've sold this one before, the Ferrari catalog book. So definitely the luxury catalog books. You know, they're usually priced them at the Goodwills here for like $2. This one can probably sell for 50, 60. Let me just make sure my space is okay here. These next two are really cool. It's a 2-volume edition of Mexican folk art, vintage books, and they're hard to find. And I mean, there's a lot of great photography in these, and you know, you see the people behind the works. I always like that with these books when they show you not just the works, but the people. How are they wearing the clothing? How is it being used? You know, I mean, these are really cool resource books. So there's 2 of these. This is the other one. I'll just show you the cover so you can see. But those are really cool resource books. Next, I'm not familiar with this person, Abdul Aziz. Now, I found these with Mexican art books, and I found some other ones too that I didn't pick up because the value didn't really make sense. But there was one on Mexican colonial art, and it looked really cool. But I have to be careful on space, you know. But this guy, it's interesting, you know. Not something I'm familiar with, but very intriguing. And value should actually be decent because, you know, this is a book that there's not a ton of. This is one actually I sourced on Amazon because I had already found this one in the wild before. It's a Keith Haring catalog book from, I want to say, 88. It's when he was still alive. I forget exactly when he passed, but it's a fairly rare catalog book of his. And that one should be worth over 100. And I did pay to get it off Amazon. I want to say I paid 20 or 25, but still worth it in my opinion. Now this one's very interesting too because this has it's pretty hard to find book, and it's called The Forbidden Book. And what this is it features a lot of kind of what you could say colonialist and frankly, especially looking back now from our period, racist and patriarchal kind of views of like other groups of people, whether it's like from the Philippines, just various things like that. But it's very interesting to see this is the kind of material and culture like that was normal, and what people were consuming. So it shapes people's views, and you can better understand the time and period when you see this kind of work. And actually that is a fairly valuable book too. I think it might be over 100. Something I do have to actually do deeper research on before I actually price it. This is one of those people, Wallace and Ladmo, and this was connected to the Phoenix Children's Hospital. I think they're from here, Phoenix, because I remember when someone had brought them up, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. And they're like, how do you not know these people? I'm like, are they famous? I have no clue. But apparently they're pretty collected, and that is a decent value book. So anyways, do you know Wallace and Ladmo? I certainly didn't. Is it good? Is it worth checking out? Let me know, because I'll check it out if so. This was along with some of those other the Mexican folk art books, and I think that was all part of the same collection. This is the photography work of Karl Blasfeld. That's not, I didn't know them, but the work is actually really cool. Like, it kind of makes me think of some of like Robert Mapplethorpe's work that just like zoomed in details on like certain kind of plants. It's pretty interesting. And actually, I'd be interested to see if this was maybe a possible influence on Mapplethorpe. I say that really, I don't know lineage on that stuff too well. This is a neat one. It's a catalog book for this artist, Art Deco era guy. I don't know the name actually, but you can see it. And some of the work in here, this is probably worth like $20, Let's see, but it's interesting. And I've definitely seen their name before, Mahali Nagy. And this next one is an artist who does or did pottery. And I'll give you more info here. Beatrice Wood, a Centennial Tribute. And the book itself is from 1997. It's not signed, but it's nicely done. And, maybe worth $20-$30. But a cool book to carry, and even just to be around and get to, as when I listed, I get to learn more about it, Now this was actually a personal favorite. Funk and Flash, Native Funk and Flash. I mean, that cover photo is amazing. And you got so much cool stuff in here. This is so much stuff that's like, oh, that would be fun to wear. That's really is bringing funk and flair to your style game. And this book, I do believe, has some value because, I mean, it's fairly rare, and how do you not like this stuff? It's fun. It's funky. I mean, literally funky. And it's nicely done. So a book I'd be tempted to keep, Now this one, actually, I found this, I had found 4 volumes from this set. This Intermountain Flora, Vascular Plants of the Intermountain West, USA. And, when I had gotten them, I actually, in a previous show and tell video, I was like, usually I try and be careful with these kind of big reference books because, they can take a long time to sell. So I had tried to really double check that they would, be worth it and be okay, because it's the space that's the issue. But they sold actually pretty fast for close to $300. So, that was great. But going through that same thrift store, I had found the other ones. I found this one, and it kind of annoyed. I was just merely annoyed because that means I had missed it, and I would have liked to bundle them all together. Just, it's kind of a OCD, or like, it just sucks that they got broken up. You know, that kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. I'm just like that, you know. So anyways, that one is sellable on its own, but the point is they got broken up, and that's a little sad. Now this one, honestly, I probably shouldn't have picked up. It's a Portuguese comic. I believe, I can't remember when it's from. Is it from the 90s? No, I think the design style is a little later than the 90s. I'll see if I can find it. It might be in the back here. No, it's 95. But what's interesting is the design style is very like contemporary, like Euro comics, I feel like. It's very beautifully drawn. And I don't even know it. This is a historical kind of book on opium, you know? It's really nice. The art's really good. I'll have to see. You know, sometimes there's books I do and things I take flyers on. I do feel okay on that one. I think it will sell eventually. It's just that I got to maintain some discipline in terms of all that stuff I pick up. Now, going more into some of the paperbacks here. Let's see. So this is, I found a couple of these Broadview Press books, and, you know, they seem like they have decent value for contemporary paperbacks. This is Heart of Darkness. So I also found On the Origin of Species, and they just feel nice, these editions. So I don't know. I think they sell for around $20. Here's a contemporary edition of Crime and Punishment, kind of a goofy cover, but that's such a great book and a classic, you know. I've never found this one before, and it's a bit beat up, but Henry Miller, Big Sur and the Origins of Hieronymus Bosch. Henry Miller was famously married to, no, it's Arthur Miller. I get those two confused. Arthur Miller was married to Marilyn Monroe. Is it Henry? Actually, I still have him confused. I don't even know. Please correct with the correct information, if you can. The Politics of Prejudice. Actually, vintage paperback, I think has decent value. Some of these nonfiction works on these kind of subjects are very solid. Although sell-through is the issue, and so you got to be okay holding it for a while. Now, this is another Richard Brautigan. So this was all from that. Those Brautigans were from the same collection, found them at the same time. I've sold this one several times. I do need to read some of his work just so I can know what it is. I'm curious, you know. Found several editions of Lolita. These were always nicely designed, and I'll pick these up when they're in good condition. I sell them on Pango for like $5, you know. But he's a writer I really love and believe in, so I'm always happy to pick them up. Speak Memory. I really like those vintage books editions. They did such nice work in the design and everything, I feel like. This is another edition of Lolita. This one also good condition. These ones I always try and check though, if they have underlining and highlighting in the books, because a lot of times people read these in school. Same deal with, this is another favorite one for me to pick up is the Bell Jar. I especially like the 90s and 2000s editions. Like I really love this edition. I just think it looks great. It's just a great design. Also, just sell for like $5. 70 Soul Secrets of Sapphire. This one's rare. I actually have found a couple books of hers that were signed. But you got, it's illustrated, you know, and it's just got all the same. So these are pretty cool. This is just a great cover. Hermann Hesse. I think that's 90s edition probably. You know, $5. Italo Calvino. Hard to see there with the glare. If on a Winter's Night. I've never read any Calvino, so I know he's very popular. Now, these are kind of cool. This I found all together. Talking about sell-throughs, these are tough. So these I really get because I like them. Too French and Too Deadly. You know, some of the vintage pulp paperbacks. They have Great titles, cool cover art. A lot of the cover art, the original paintings, unfortunately, got lost, or got tossed by the publishers, because the publishers would have the artists make these works, and then, they'd store them in their facility or warehouse, and eventually either they just get thrown away, or there'd be a fire and everything gets destroyed. So they weren't really considered even some of the artists didn't really consider it like art. They were just like getting the paycheck. They didn't actually think like this is high art, whereas it's funny how over time the frameworks around what is true art and not art, what is just commercial work, it gets blurred. And nowadays people are much more understanding, I think, of it's, just... I can't even think of what I'm trying to say. It's that these are more of the these pulp paperbacks I found. And this one is, I love this artist, Robert McGinnis. There's an art book of his I'd like to get. I'm not sure on the cover artist for this one. I haven't researched it. The Trouble with Fidelity. I mean, they have such great titles, a lot of these. This is a Beast in View. Pretty cool. Smoky Range. Red Hot Ice. And like I was saying, a lot of these sell-through rates are tough. They printed a lot of those, a lot of these. Now, there's key ones you can kind of look for that have more value, but those are always going to be harder to find anyways. But a great resource on those that I picked up actually from the book gallery a while back is The Great American Paperback. It's a big reference book. And, it's like 20th century paperbacks. It's a really, really great overview. And it's fun. You can see a spectrum of great cover art, and the info is great. It's a very well done book. The Outsiders, movie tie-in edition. I sold this one a few times. This one's in good condition. So that was the main reason I picked it up. Graham Greene, The Power and the Glory. I got this just because I like the penguins, Let's see. Here we got Boccaccio, Amorous Tales from the Decameron. Never read Boccaccio. Is it worth reading? Probably. If it's lasted this long, it must mean that there's something interesting about the work that keeps resonating through generations. It's hard. The further away you get in time from when a thing was made, oftentimes the harder it is for it to connect. So if it still connects with people, like Shakespeare, that's incredible to me, that it can transcend, centuries and still speak to people. Dead Souls. And some things age well, some things don't age well. It's not always because the work is good or bad. It's just some things just age differently than others, I think. Dead Souls, and I like the cover art on this one. I'd never found this edition before. That's, not super valuable, but this was one that was borderline, but it's Pro Hockey book from 1977. A complete handbook of pro hockey featuring Paul Newman on the cover. And I think that's from, the movie Slapshot. It Can't Happen Here. I've never found this edition by Sinclair Lewis. And, fairly prescient. Just wrap yourself in the flag and religion and you can do anything. I won't get into it. The Coming of the Robots. Have you accepted our robot overlords yet? Good luck with that. We'll see what happens. I'm more worried about the people behind the robots than the robots themselves, to be honest. But I think this one has a bit of value. And let's see. The Einstein Intersection by Delaney. I haven't read Delaney, but he's a very big sci-fi writer. He wrote Dahlgren. That's a pretty big book. I'd actually love to check it out. I have one in my own store. Definitely one of those I'll have to check out. But I thought the cover on that one was cool. Resurrection by Tolstoy. Cool cover, And then The Trial by Kafka. So, this is a vintage books edition, $5 to $10. I love Kafka. I have not read The Trial, though, I don't think. But also one of those guys who they're going to transcend time, generations even far beyond ours, because the work it speaks to, we always live within bureaucracies and systems, and there's many iterations of it, and so the individual's trials with that will always. And here we have A Gift of Magic by Lois Duncan. And just a great cover on this one. It's kind of a YA suspense horror it looks late 80s or 90s. I mean, I think probably early 90s based on the girl's clothing and style. This one's really cool. The Chinese Letter. And it's a gothic from, I believe, late 70s, mid-late 70s. And the thing that's cool about it is the artwork reminds me of the guy who did a lot of the art for the Agatha Christie books in the 70s. I think the guy's name is William Thiessen, and this one didn't have an artist credit on it, but I think it's his work. And I just love his stylization because it's kind of realistic, but it's very unique. This one, ex-library, but and fairly beat up, but up in Seth's room. And the reason I picked this one up is it does have some value, and the reason is it's dealing with like teen sex basically, and so this is kind of important book for its time because this was kind of a newer thing that was being dealt with for young people. Usually it wasn't as talked about, and so a lot of people, even say in my generation that were growing up with these when they were kids, people will want to collect those because it reminds them of their youth too, in that period of time, and how kids were learning about how do you deal with these things, and it was through books like this. Back to Eden. This one I just showed because for me, it's always an easy sell and pick up. People are always looking for these. Basically, you want any of the pre-95 editions. I want to 1995 editions. They're usually good. They'll sell for, $20 to $35. This one I hesitated on, but also he's just a writer I really like, and I do carry French books. I carry a fair amount of foreign material, but the problem for some of this, the sell-throughs are fairly slow. But for someone like Proust, the reason Proust sells well is that it's not just for French speakers, but for people learning French. And there's a lot of people that learn French, like even in the US. So that's very sellable. And he's a very popular writer for if, you're trying to read and be exposed to, some of the best works from like French culture, or 20th century. Hunter S. Thompson, Hell's Angels. I think I read this a long time ago, and I love Hunter S. Thompson. But the funny thing is, I remember hearing some Hell's Angels. I think we were talking about him and basically saying he was such a bitch or something, which I thought was so funny. I just thought that was random and funny. It cracked me up. And this is Shock 2 by Richard Matheson. Matheson is, I believe, best known for I Am Legend. So I read that a while back, and a few other short stories of his, but I can't say I know his work that well. Nat Turner's Slave Rebellion, vintage paperback, and this is a good publisher. It's a little hard to see, but it's this little black cat. What are they called again? Evergreen Black Cat. They published a lot of cool works. So these, I always just love the covers on these Avon Bard books. These were late 70s into the 80s, and they just always had a lot of funky covers, and I just like the design on them. They tend to be pretty clean. This one just picked up because I don't have a copy of Ulysses right now, and this one's in fairly good condition. I try and carry kind of those, this is standard, modernist, great work of the 20th century. And I haven't read Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake because my inclination, or I suspect I really wouldn't like them that much. Not that I wouldn't enjoy reading it. It's not that it's not good. just don't think I'd like reading it. I just think it sounds like a pain in the ass, is what I think. Maybe if I was reading it for school and it was like going to be getting discussed and stuff, but I'm not wanting to read something like that right now. I want my reading to be somewhat enjoyable. Basically, maybe it's a little lazy, but I don't want to put in that much work trying to understand what the person's trying to tell me. And my vibe is I got to, slog through it. Viper's Tangle. I mean, what do you think on James Joyce and Ulysses? Is it, how accessible is it? And did you enjoy it if you read it? Viper's Tango by François Mauriac, who is a great French 20th century writer. And this one is a Loyola classic. So it's kind of considered it deals with Catholicism. And I think Mauriac's youth, growing up in a very Catholic family and dealing with all that entailed. So I read it about a long time ago, so I don't remember too much, but I remember liking it when I read it. So I was happy I've never found a English version, so I was happy to find that. This is speaking of comic artists, this is one of the greats, Tove Jansson. Now, I hadn't realized that she actually wrote books. Like books. Like I knew she's famous for Moomin. Everyone loves Moomin. I actually I don't have a figurine, but I need a Moomin figurine. It's like a hippo-like little character. And she was doing it for like a lot of the UK papers. She was from Finland. And so quirky and awesome and beautiful and amazing. I highly recommend her Moomin work. This is an NYRB book. And NYRB, I've mentioned before, is my friend Gloomy Girl book. She turned me onto these. And they tend to republish kind of a lot of sort of lesser known or like international writers and lesser known works, so they kind of reintroduce it to the modern public, which is really cool. Their catalog must be pretty amazing. I think it's pretty large. That one was the summer book. So, but she's way cool. I mean, she's like George Herriman for me. I mean, I'm just like, she's up there in the pantheon. And this never really picked up video games, but it just like was right there on the cart. I'm like, okay, Grand Theft Auto, okay, PlayStation 2, let's try it out. I mean, it was, $4 or $5. Give it a shot. I don't want to do too much video games. That was purely opportunistic. I don't not like video games. Some of my favorite YouTube content to watch is this guy, Get the Games Greg, and he does a lot of like overviews on like video game auctions and stuff like that. I don't collect video games. I like hearing him talk about them though, because he's so knowledgeable, and also they are part of my youth. And I don't play video games now. It's not because I don't like them. It's just a bit of a time thing. But I love the art, the gameplay. There's a lot of amazing work within video games, and plus even the boxes look cool with the art and everything. So like Double Dragon 2, would I want to collect that? Almost, yes. But I'm not doing another. I'm trying to be disciplined. I got enough collecting pathologies going on. So keep going. So. Otherwise, I'm trying to think what my favorite, my favorite one, to be honest, is probably going to be the George Herriman book, just because it speaks to me, his work. He's an all-time favorite for me. I remember, so I grew up with Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes, and that's like my favorite comic. And then, I was reading what some of Bill Watterson wrote about his influences, and he said, Walt Kelly, who did Pogo, was one of his, major influences, and you can definitely see it in the drawing style. And I definitely recommend Pogo, even though Pogo is very like, a lot of the issues it dealt with are issues of its time. So Vietnam War, stuff like this. So not all of that will have resonance for people nowadays. But it's still a cool window into the time. And the guy was a very good artist. He was, he worked for, I want to say Disney for a while. So he had animation training. That's why his line's so beautiful and fluid. But I think those two were influenced by George Herriman. So it's kind of cool, the lineage between these great artists, these great popular artists too. So, Anyways, that's some of my favorites. Do you have any favorites? Anything that you found most interesting? Or, if you have information to add on any of the books or writers, or yeah, just let me know. Any corrections too. And yeah, always keep having fun. And until the next time, bye.